Oh, blimey.
We should now, so be live on YouTube.
Huh, cool. Maybe I'll play some background music. Okay.
So give everybody a few minutes to start joining, and then we'll get underway, I think. Once I've solved that problem.
Bit of salsa music. Hopefully no one objects.
Good choice.
Okay.
So, there we go.
Exciting. Usually people take 15 minutes to come.
Won't you be able to unmute themselves and join in chatting?
They can unmute themselves, yeah. It's all set.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Elsa, you managed to make it for the start.
Yay.
Hey.
Hey.
Very cool. Hey, Steve, where's your background from?
This one's from Red Dead Redemption 2.
Ah.
I've been playing it for the last week or so.
All I know about that is that the baddie, who is a very bad baddie, is called Mika Bell.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Micah.
Yeah, which is great for my rep.
It was kind of weird having missions come up with your name, to be honest.
I'm everywhere. Yeah. Oh, well, he's not helping me, but it's fine. It's fine. Oh.
Hey.
I need some WD-40 for my chair. Really upsetting.
I think mine's not too far. Mine tends to squeak more just because it's the arms on the leather.
Ah. Is it less of a squeak and more of a, kind of trumpy sound?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not ideal.
Okay, so as we'll probably give everybody till sort of 22 to sort of roll in, and then we can get started from there.
Yeah, I think that sounds fair. Although it technically does say 1:45 on Meetup, so might be a little unfair.
And then I will give it to 1:45 because I forgot that's what it said.
It's all right. It's fine. Shall I resume?
Person organising.
Sorry?
Well, you have more than one person organising.
Yeah. Shall I resume the salsa music?
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Do it.
Okay. Yeah. Love a bit of salsa. Can't actually salsa, but still,
You're not going to dance along for us?
Don't tempt me.
No, I'll just...
Yes, Elsa.
I wonder if I can do a turn on my swivel chair without falling on my face.
Yeah, do it.
Do it.
Oh,
forever.
oh, is there any like music for capoeira? Because it's a dancey thing, isn't it? Like a dancing and fighting thing. I could get some capoeira. Give me a sec.
And I'm not wearing the right attire for cartwheeling, I'm afraid.
It's all right. I'll let you off.
Been joining over the last few minutes. This evening, we'll after the last talk, we'll probably finish up at that stage in terms of ending the YouTube stream. But Zoom call will stay open afterwards for beverages and chat. If you'd like to stick around.
Oh yeah, you're serving up cocktails.
I'm not. I'm serving them to me.
It's a bit selfish, but okay. Is this a good one?
It is definitely a capoeira song, yes. I don't think it's going to be people's jam, to be honest.
I've never heard capoeira before, so you know this is learning something new already.
That's like a more traditional song, so it's quite old. It's probably from like around the 1800s, from when slavery was still a thing. So they're quite like the instruments.
Okay, I'll stop.
Rudimentary.
Okay. I probably shouldn't mess in things that I don't understand.
You can hear a string instrument. It's called the berimbau. And I
Berimbau.
think it's one of the oldest string instruments. It's very difficult to play because it's very inconvenient, but I recommend you Google it.
Cool. Okay, how do I spell that?
Oh, it's B-E-R-I-M-B-A-U.
Berimbau.
Is that the one you have? You've got one, Carol, or Tom's got one?
Yeah, Tom's got one.
Oh, it's cool.
I've got a pandero, which is like a tambourine, because it's more portable.
That's cool. I don't even know how you would play that.
Yeah, I think the primary answer is with difficulty, but the second answer is like if you put it on YouTube, you'll see people playing it. Basically hold the whole thing with your little finger, and then you play it with your other hand with the stick on the string.
Oh yeah, I see. That's very cool. I like that. The only capoeira that I've seen referenced is on Bob's Burgers.
Oh, I love that episode. It's so funny.
He's great.
It's so funny.
It is amazing. I've rewatched them recently. So yeah, it's like at the forefront of my mind. Oh, what is it that he says? Oh, because he whips his hair and I like to do it because, you know. Oh, what is it that he says, Carol?
Oh, I can't remember. I can't remember for the life of me, but it's very funny.
I miss the music now. Check my headphones are still connected.
I can't find it, but the guy is called Gyro. Anyway.
I'm trying to remember. I can only remember that he does a bunch of movements like.
Yeah. And it's a pandero, it's the tambourine.
Mhm.
Cool. Very cool. Have you got a one of the belts? One of the 8 belts?
Yes, I do have. I think I'm on my 3rd belt.
Cool.
I was going to change belts, but then the Rona hit, so maybe next year.
Yeah. I'm gonna look into it more. It's cool.
It is good fun. It kind of tricks you to exercise because it's quite hard, but because you play it with your friends, it's more like I find it motivates me more.
That's good. I've always wanted to be able to cartwheel. Can't. I
Yeah,
can't do a
it's fun.
handstand.
Oh, I'm still learning handstand. It's hard, especially for women, by the way. If you want me to start my rant early.
Yes, go for it.
Always up for a rant.
Yeah.
That's why it was originally designed, because originally a man's thing. So as I said before, it started during slavery in Brazil.
Mm.
And the legend is that the reason it's dancey is because they used to practice it as a dance and hid the martial aspect of it.
Yeah.
They then used that to defend themselves when they escaped their captors.
Yeah.
In Brazil, like near the end of slavery, there were massive groups of people that escaped from their previous masters, and they used capoeira to defend themselves.
That's really cool.
But basically, it was largely created by men, so a lot of the moves rely a lot on upper body strength.
Yeah.
And the handstand is one of those because men tend to have like a lighter lower body and stronger upper body.
Yeah.
It's easier for them to balance, whereas women tend to have like a leaner upper body and big hips and big legs, which
Very much described me.
Quite tricky to balance.
Yeah, when you're bottom heavy, trying to be upside down, it's not ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, my arms are like twiglets. Yeah, I can't support myself at all. My dad has one of those, the bars, the pull-up bar thingies. Yeah, he's tried to get me to do it so many times. I just hang there. Sad. Oh well.
I think it's probably time to get started.
Yeah, T-1 minute. I think that's okay.
Share the relevant screen. And welcome everybody to the June DevOps Nuts. Thank you for coming along, be it in the Zoom call, be it watching us live on YouTube at the moment. This evening, I would like to thank our sponsors, Robo Recruitment, who lovingly provide us with Zoom, and as well as my co-organizer Misha as well. Stickers, who when we can get all together again, provide us with stickers. If you would like any posting out to you or anything like that, obviously DM us on Twitter. And finally, we have JetBrains, who provide us with a product key that you'll be able to win later on this evening. If you like to hear more of Misha and myself, as well as one of our speakers this evening, Louise, Pete Gallagher and Jonathan Ralph waffle a lot, you can get that right into your ear holes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and pretty much anywhere else you can find a podcast, as we delve into various agile engineering topics, from agile itself to DevOps to various leadership challenges and stuff like that as well. And I just want to make a quick mention as well to the Global DevOps Bootcamp, which will be running on the 24th of October this year. I will be the local keynote speaker for one of the events in the Midlands at MMT Digital in Uppingham. You can get tickets to that, which are free. It's free to attend. It's on a Saturday. And come and learn about DevOps and SRE and take part in challenges and stuff like that. So if you Google MMT Digital Global DevOps Bootcamp, you'll be able to find that on Eventbrite. So I mentioned earlier that one of the things you can do is win a product license for JetBrains. Now, this is a year's subscription license for basically any JetBrains product. So that could be ReSharper, it could be Rider, it could be WebStorm, or even TeamCity if you wanted. You can win that by simply tweeting us or tweeting with the hashtag DevOpsNuts. and we'll be drawing the winner later this evening. We are, of course, also looking for more speakers throughout the year. Our first birthday is coming up in August. We're starting to fill our roster for some speakers for that. We're trying to plan something a little bit special there. So if you're interested in speaking and coming along to that, get in touch with us either on Twitter or email us direct at contact@devopsnots.co.uk. And we're also looking for speakers for the rest of the roster throughout the year. So that would be September, October, and November, and we always take December off. So this evening, we have an event based around diversity in tech. We want to celebrate that, and we have that. We're doing that in the form of a set of lightning talks. We have speaking tonight our very own Misha Bell. We have Balhaya, is that said? Did I say that right? Yeah. Louise Paling, Anna Dodson, Hannah Mulligan, Nina Swanwick, and Carol Gillibert. So without further ado, I would like to begin this evening by handing over to Misha.
Hello. Right. I will just start to share my screen. Which one? This one. Okay. Righto. Now, okay, I've only used PowerPoint once before. So I think it is, which button is it? Is it that button? Reading view. There we go. Right. Okay. Can we all see? Okay, good. Right. So, hello everybody, and welcome to my Diversity in Tech talk. Thank you for all coming along. My name is Misha, as Liam has so kindly introduced me. I am lead dev recruiter at Rebel, co-founder of this event, and I am one of the illustrious hosts of Agile Engineering podcast. You can tweet me at Misha Sophie Bell. And there's my LinkedIn, although I don't know why I've put it there because you can't click on it probably. Anyway, so let's jump straight in. So I thought I would start off with defining some things. So what is diversity? Is it a buzzword? Is it a plane? No. It's a very important topic that needs our urgent and careful consideration and discussion. So diversity is the state of being diverse. It actually comes from the Latin to turn aside, which is quite an interesting fact as a language nerd. And hopefully that will no longer be the case. So there is some other kind of terminology around diversity, which I thought would be also quite useful to have a look at. So I think that diversity, inclusivity are two kind of words that are very strongly associated. I personally think that that's the starting point that we should go from. But then I think that the ultimate goal should be equality, just because of the definitions. So and what they represent. So diversity and inclusivity, so inclusivity in particular, so the practice or policy of including people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those who have physical or mental disabilities and members of minority groups. That's obviously great, but like what I would really love us to get towards is where this isn't a problem anymore, where everybody is in a state of being equal, especially in status, rights and opportunities. That's how I think it should be. So hopefully in a few years' time, fingers crossed, we can have another event to just show how far we've come. And hopefully it'll be called Equality in Tech. So when you bring diverse people together, the magic happens. There are such great ideas that come from being surrounded by people that are different to you in whatever way, in any way. It is the creator of new ideas, of different ways of thinking, and of acceptance of one another as well. So I thought I'd start off with some of my experiences at Rebel, Rebel Recruiters. So when I first joined, so I was the first one to join Rebel. I joined my previous manager, Azar, who also brought with him and us a couple of my other colleagues. They were from Pakistani heritage and Muslim faith, and I was not. I am a Caucasian lady. And I was in a very different age bracket as well. So quite a lot of diversity there. And to be honest, it was a really great experience because I feel like I brought some ideas and stuff to the table that they may not have thought of because of the experiences and different points of view that I have. So as we grew, we've added more and more people into the fold. There are about 15 of us now, and we're from all kinds of different backgrounds. So, so as I mentioned, Pakistani heritage, Muslim faith. I've learned all about Buddhism from one of my colleagues. The same lady was female and also on the spectrum as well, so the autistic spectrum, which was really, really interesting for me because it just, I never really thought about it, and it's highlighted actually quite a few similarities that we had. We've also got a lady who has really quite bad arthritis. She's written blog posts about it. You wouldn't know that she had to deal with that to look at it, and she's absolutely beautiful. But that brings its own difficulties and things, and so that will give her a completely different perspective on life and all the different problems that she faces, but also how she's overcome them as well. And also food. I love cooking. I have learned so much about Pakistani cooking from Azar's mum. I can cook a mean curry. We have curry Wednesdays. It's been amazing. I've learned all about Islam as well, and the culture, like Pakistani culture, and I've learned a lot, and it's changed my mind on a lot of different things that I had thought, and I approach problems differently now. And also, so the learning and appreciating of different people and all the aspects of the different people that I've worked with has created an increase in acceptance. So I love learning about cultures and stuff. I studied languages at university, so it was kind of natural for me, but I find it just incredibly interesting. So the equality, and inclusivity, improving it is hard. There are various obstacles. These are just a few. So the first, I would imagine, subconscious bias and societal inequality. So by this, I mean, it can mean a lot of different things, but there is a subconscious bias. There have been a lot of studies done that it is a kind of tribalism where people look for things that are familiar to them, and they like, it's a natural thing, I guess, to look for people and ideas that confirm your own ideas and justifications and vindications for things. It can naturally result in an all boys club, though, and especially in tech, it's quite apparent. So I also have seen that there are other barriers to entry, specifically around like interview styles. So quite often people say a white male will be the hiring manager, will interview somebody and look for traits and common ground that reflect what they like and how they act and what they think. Now that will obviously only really serve to produce a kind of homogenous culture, which can kind of result in a bit of an echo chamber, really, which can stifle new ideas sometimes. Stereotypes around, especially like around like children, like boys' toys, girls' toys. It's something that can be broken by parents. So motherhood as well. I mean, there are basically the pay gap, the gender pay gap, is a topic of much discussion. So motherhood really does affect the earning power of women. not only from a point of view of having to make a decision between a career and their earning power and a sense of self coming from that, but then also motherhood and then how that will be judged as well. But then also they take the diversity with them if they have to come out of the working world. There can be cultural, religious differences that can sometimes potentially cause friction. But is that friction should that be a negative thing? I mean, friction might have like negative connotations, but like challenging your own point of view is never a bad thing. It helps you to open your mind, as I will come on to. So there are ways around there are practical steps that you can take to overcome the lack of diversity in your organization. So there are little things. So changing your language. I've seen this from quite a few people in actually that are here talking about the language of like saying, hey guys. You know, as I mentioned, I study languages, French, Spanish. They are Romance languages, and so even if there is one male in a group of 100 females, you still have to address that group as male, like with the male pronoun, which fair enough, that might be a throwback, but we don't have gendered pronouns for groups anymore. We don't need that. You can say, hey folks, hello all, hi everyone, or just hello. That will suffice. So the lack of diversity in tech can be addressed, and I think it should be addressed right at the beginning of people's lives. So when I was at school, STEM subjects were not seen as subjects that girls would excel in. I was not really encouraged to really excel in those kind of areas, and thus went and did languages so that I can talk to people and kind of perpetuate that kind of stereotype. But if you know like the stereotypes around what children play with, how they learn, and the expectations that people have on them, and how you talk to your children can really start to open up that barrier that people might have from a cultural perspective later on in life. It will take a long time, but it is very important. So don't just tick a box. By that I mean, I've seen so many stats and stuff. There are 5 female CEOs in the FTSE 100 as of 2020. 5. That's not right. However, hiring a woman to sit on a board of directors because she's a woman really, really takes away from all of the experience, the point of view, the ideas, what she's worked so hard to do to get to the position that she's in. Like it just, yeah, that really, really frustrates me. And yeah, there's 1 in 3 British entrepreneurs are female, and as I mentioned, like the pay gap increases when the children are born, and actually by the age of when the child reaches the age of 12, the pay gap is such that the woman's salary is a third less than the father's, the hourly rate, which is quite sad. So how can we fix that? Enhance paternity leave, encouraging men to take the same amount of leave as women, encouraging maybe going part-time so that each parent can have equal responsibility for their career and the childcare, trying to make things again equal, and open your mind. How many people here, I think you can raise your hand if we've not disabled it, have recruited or been in charge of recruitment? I can't see, but anyway, it's fine. Think about the last 3 people that you hired. How similar were they to you? What kind of questions did you ask them? How did you discern whether or not they were somebody that you wanted to hire? Did you go based on the skills that they demonstrated, or was it that they might have had things in common with you, that they enjoy the same things, that they have the same opinions. Also, I say discriminating, it isn't necessarily discriminating if it's unconscious bias, but asking people what they do in their free time to further their development knowledge, for example. What if you're a mum? What if you have children? What if you have to look after your parents that are elderly? These are all things that can be taken into consideration. Maybe instead ask them, how did you get into tech? That's a really quite an interesting thing. It is completely neutral. There is no bias there. It's a story. You get to know them, and how they arrived at where they are, and then that can obviously lead in nicely into the more technical stuff. So I want this to be an open forum. I think that we all do. Don't be afraid to talk, discuss, reflect, self-reflect, assume good intent, I think is a really big one. I don't think anybody here is attending a diversity in tech event to get angry at other people. I think, we will all want to improve ourselves and improve tech. Let's make it a more inclusive, diverse, and eventually equal place for everybody to enjoy. People are people. That is all. I'm done. Thank you for listening. Okie dokie. I don't know how to get off this. Okay.
Sharing screen at the bottom.
Okay, I can do this. It's fine. Oh, there. Got it.
Fantastic. Has anybody got any questions for Misha at this stage?
Misha, hello. In
Hello.
your role as a recruiter, how have you handled hiring managers, for example, pursuing what you would see as a discriminatory reasons for wanting to hire people?
I have discussed their reasons behind their decisions, and questioned them and tried to get them to see things from a different point of view. It is difficult. People don't like to be challenged, but sometimes it's necessary. I actually forgot to include one of my clients now off their own back has asked me to remove the names of any applicant for the role that I'm recruiting for, to remove any potential unconscious bias, which is a really great step. And I'm going to try and collate more of these kind of examples to be able to demonstrate to people, because it's one thing to say something, but it's another thing to actually practically help, which I think is something that I really should do more of. But yeah, just talk to them and get them to see another point of view, really.
Thank you. And thank you for your talk. That was really good.
Thank you. I don't feel like I've breathed in about 15 minutes.
Oh, time for one more question. Is if anybody else has one? Cool. Let's give another round of applause for Misha. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And give a big DevOps Knots welcome to Bal as we hand over to her for her lightning talk.
Cool. Okay, so here we go. Let me share my screen and oops, I'm going to share. Oh, sorry, let me just move things out of the way. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this talk is all about the hat I'm going to wear. So now I know which hat to wear. So this is my journey into tech, which some of you might have heard it, but here goes. So this is the hat I want to wear. They're my Twitter handles and LinkedIn if you want to get in touch. Okay, this talk is about my journey through life, explaining how I settled on the hats I'm wearing today. During my life, I have worn many hats. As a child of Indian immigrants, I was always encouraged to reach my full potential by working hard at school. I wore the hat of a hard-working first-generation child. Then I wore the hat of a computer science graduate and broke into the male-dominated tech industry in the early 90s. I wore the hat of a programmer and a system analyst for a few years. As someone from the Sikh community back in the early 90s, it was conventional, and indeed I willingly wore the hat that expected me to marry soon after graduation. I wore the chunni, which is the Asian headscarf, which you wear when you get married. The next hat I wore was perhaps my most rewarding and proudest, and that was of a mother to my 3 lovely children. It was expected for me to postpone my career and aspiration to fulfill this role and wear the hat of stay-at-home mother, which I did eagerly and with pride. But after 11 years and with my youngest starting full-time school, I decided to look around and see what hats were available to me whilst my children were still at school. I needed to wear a hat that gave me some enjoyment and fulfillment outside of my children because I wanted to be seen as my own person and not just to wear the hat of a mother. I needed a hat with flexibility so that I could wear it during the working hours, but also easily take it off to care for my family. The hat that fitted the best was that of a primary teacher. It was an amazing career. Going into work every day was different. There would always be something unexpected happening. One of the most rewarding parts of my day was the moment a child who had been struggling with a concept finally understood and clicked what was happening. But it wasn't enough. I wanted to wear a more visible hat. The turning point was when I was referred to as Simon's wife in a conversation when I was present at a family gathering. I was shocked and dismayed that after so long and with all my various hats, that was how I was perceived to the outside world. I knew I was so much more. So after 15 years of teaching, I realized this wasn't exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. My children were grown up and didn't need me as much as when they were younger. So I didn't have to feel the guilt that some others do when they want to do something for themselves. I had worn the numerous hats that society had decided were best for me, the daughter, the wife, the teacher, etc. And it was all right to be almost selfish in desiring to choose a new hat for myself. I needed a hat. I needed a new job. A hat where I could be me without worrying about what was expected of me because of my gender or culture. A hat I wanted to wear that people didn't judge or assume. I chose because it was expected of me. So after deliberating for a few weeks, I decided that I wanted to become a developer again. Breaking into that industry after 20 plus years of gap, I wanted that hat. And that's just what I did. So within the space of a couple of weeks and with the encouragement from my family, I handed my resignation into school and finally came out onto the Nottingham tech scene in October 2018. As I had talked for a living as a teacher, networking came naturally to me. But it was encouraging and reassuring that the Nottingham tech community was also so open and supportive of me and my ambitions. So whilst networking, I was also happy to try on some more hats. A mentee hat. Anna Dodson was my guide, and even now she's someone cheering for me when I'm not in the room. A work experience hat. I shadow various people at DVSA here in Nottingham. And a student hat. I enrolled in project function and learnt JavaScript, HTML and PHP. Then I applied and I got accepted and was given a new hat of a graduate developer at JH here in Nottingham again last July. So almost a year ago, during my first week at JH, I was also accepted to wear yet another hat. It's like the buses, they come one, if they never come and then they all come all at once. This time it was to take part in a 6-month course in a new initiative by Dr. Sue Black, who headed up something called Tech Up Women. This course covered the breadth of a computer science degree and allowed me to dust off my old hat of a computer scientist and student. I also passed a business analyst foundation course with the help of these Tech Up Women. So in present day, further to wearing my previous hat, I'm still at project function, but I wear the hat of an instructor these days, and we're hoping to run the next wave soon. I also wear the hat of a co-organizer at PHP Minds and the hat of a valued employee here at JH as a junior developer. But the most important hat I wear is that of a valued member of the tech community and as a learner. And you know what? I love the hat that I'm wearing today. So don't read too much into Harry Potter and the sorting hat. A hat doesn't choose you. I hope you are wearing the right hat as well. And if not, I encourage you and I hope you feel empowered to find the right one. It's never too late to find a hat that fits you better. Thank you for listening to my talk. That's it.
Big round of applause for Belle, please, folks. Does anybody have any questions for Belle?
Oops. Cool. I am trying to.
I was going to say, what is this thing you want to promote, Val?
Well, it's project function. If you want to join the next wave, I know, just go on to projectfunction.io and you can just subscribe there and we'll get back to you when we're up and running, probably online.
Cool. Sick stuff.
Cool. Okay.
That was great.
Thank you.
I really, really like that.
Fabulous.
Okay, so once again, thank you, Belle. Next up, we have Louise Paling. So if everybody could give another welcome to Louise. She's spoken here before. That would be great. Just welcome to Louise.
Hello. Hopefully you can see my screen. Yeah. Right. I'm Louise Paling. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm going to talk about tech conferences, those things that are always dominated by the middle-class white dude, right? Well, I co-organise the DevOps Days London conference, and we're really keen that our conference is not full of white men. We believe strongly that diversity is important. Our conference is made up of talks in the mornings and open spaces, which are sort of curated short sessions for the attendees to get together and talk about topics that matter to them. And for that to be valuable, we need to have a diverse group of people. Some of that diversity comes from the attendees working in different companies, but a lot of it comes from life experience. So I'm just going to talk through how we organise the DevOps Days London conference and how we try to make sure it's diverse and inclusive. Starting with the venue, we need a place to actually hold this conference. We have a goal for our venue is to make sure that everyone can participate. There will be nothing about the venue itself that will stop people from being able to participate fully in the event. So we make sure that there are plenty of lifts. Most of them are wheelchair accessible. The seating itself is not fixed, so it can be moved for wheelchair accessibility. People perhaps needing crutches, we can space out the seating if we need to. The toilets are all fully accessible. We make sure there's space for hearing assistance. And recently in the latest, last year's event, we also added an option for transportation cost help. The one thing about our venue which is not the most accessible is out front there are a whole load of cobblestones. There's not a lot we can do about the historic cobblestones in London, but there is a ramp to a pickup point right outside the building. So we have offered to reimburse anybody who needs to use that for a black cab from the local wheelchair accessible tube station. Okay, so this is our venue. It's the QE2 Centre in London. It is eye-wateringly expensive, but it is very good. We've got our venue now, so we need to have some talks, or it's not much of a conference. So the way we try to organise our lineup is to make sure that we have a diverse group of talks, but also a diverse group of speakers. And much as a lot of people blame the lack of diversity in the pipeline as being the reason that their teams at work are not very diverse, the same is true of the all-white male speaker lineup. There are just not enough people who are submitting. We do not, for the London event at least, we do not tend to invite specific speakers. Instead we invite people to submit to our CFP, our call for proposals. So we do outreach. We do a lot of outreach to make sure that we don't have a pipeline problem. We make sure that the range of talks that have been submitted are coming from a range of people. So I will plug this hard at Women in Tech Nottingham, for example, because that is a good place to find a diverse group of people who would be interested in coming and speaking at our event. And once we've got that, we try to take any unconscious bias out by anonymizing a lot of information in the talk. So not only people's names and pronouns, but also the companies they work for and any particular technologies. So we blank out a whole lot of information, specifics there, to try to get down to the core of what the talks are. Then everybody on the organising committee will rate those anonymised talks on a scale of 0 to 3. We'll add up all the scores together, and we then can order the list with the most popular first. And then we unanonymize. De-anonymize, one of those is definitely a word. Let's say de-anonymize. We de-anonymize them, and then we can start at the top of the list and work down. Sometimes we'll find that after we've de-anonymized things, that it does change our opinion. There's occasionally we found a talk that when it's been anonymized looks exactly like it's a vendor pitch. So we kind of rated it really low, but actually after we take that out, it turns out we were wrong about that. So it's not a fully anonymous process here. We do make sure we curate this so we do get the right range. So first we're looking for a range of talk topics, and the way we tend to get diversity in the speakers is when we have high rated talks on the same topic, we select for the ones that aren't white dudes. That's largely what we've been able to do and actually end up with a good range of topics and mix of people on the panels. So we've been quite fortunate in how that's worked for us. So now we have a venue and we have some talks. We now need to have some people attending. We've got two things we do to try and make sure that our attendees are diverse. The first one is we make sure that the tickets are affordable. So that if you buy tickets early enough, that £99 super early bird ticket, that is less money than we spend on the food for an individual attendee. Most of the conference is paid for by the sponsors, and it's not cheap to put on a conference. But if you make your attendees pay for it, it's the white men who get the tickets paid for by their company who will be attending. The second thing we do is that bottom ticket. We have an underrepresented and unwaged ticket, which is completely free. There are not a lot of them, although we can get more. So the supported ticket at £300 there helps fund additional underrepresented tickets. And key, we don't make people justify why they're in that group. It's self-selecting. So those tickets go fast. So now we have a venue, we have some talks, and we have some people to listen to the talks. Those people are going to get hungry, so we need some food. Our goal here is simply to make sure that that hallway track where you accidentally talk to people and find lots of interesting things continues for everybody during the breaks when the food's on offer. We don't want to make anyone feel like they have to go and get their own food. They should all be able to eat with whatever we have provided. So we do that by making sure, simply to start with, we ask people if they have any dietary requirements on when they get the tickets. But we also make sure that there are gluten-free vegan options as part of the main meal, and we have high standards for this. They need to be as good as the non-vegetarian food. I I can't sing the praises enough of the vegan trifle that we had last year. I don't know how every component part of a trifle isn't even supposed to be vegetarian in the original, yet this vegan version is the best trifle I've ever tasted. We do good food. So anyway, this applies through everything. So even the snacks that come part way through, we make sure there's an option that everybody should be able to have. The evening meal, we try to do, the evening event, we try and do the same there as well. So come the day of the event, we want to lower the barrier for anybody to participate. So we start this with the badges that we provide. And we have a lot of options. It can be interesting at the registration desk trying to explain everything to everyone. So on the top row here, we have different coloured lanyards. These are for whether you want your photograph taken or not. Red, please don't take my photo. Yellow, please ask me first. Most people take the black, which snap away. We then have communication stickers, how happy you are to communicate, and we've tried to make them traffic sign shapes. So we've got a go sign, a give way sign, and a stop sign for, yeah, come talk to me, I'll talk to anyone about anything, to I just really want to come and listen to the talks, and please leave me alone. And then, of course, the pronoun stickers, so that nobody gets misgendered accidentally. And next up, we have the code of conduct. So this is really important. Any event ought to have a code of conduct. It should be clear and visible, and it applies to everybody. So this isn't just a code of conduct for our attendees. This applies to the sponsors, to the volunteers, to the organisers ourselves. It needs to be easy to report. So we've always tried to make it easy to spot the volunteers. We all wear the same purple t-shirt, so you can find us easily. But this year we went a step further, and we actually had a mobile phone that somebody was carrying around at all times. That was printed on the back of all of the badges, so you could ring or text if you had anything you wanted to report. And the most important step of any code of conduct is that it is enforced. We absolutely enforce it. People have been removed, unfortunately. So you have to make sure you follow through on that. And then we've got a few things that we now believe is just our minimal offering. We will not run the event without these. At the floor of the event, we re-gender every bathroom from male and female to all gender bathrooms. We do make it clear, as you can see in the picture, which has the urinals. So if you don't want to see that, you don't have to. However, we want to make sure that our non-binary attendees feel fully welcome and there is a bathroom that is applicable for them. We provide free childcare, whether or not it gets used. So last year, it was the year before, so 2018 event, nobody used the childcare, but we still made sure it was available last year. And we did that because we do not want to make sure, we want to make sure that no one feels they can't attend because they have no one to look after their children. It's one of the big barriers for people being able to come, and it hits women disproportionately. For a few years, we've had live captioning, and we've now started having signers as well. So that helps. We've got live signers on stage, and the captioning isn't the auto-generated captioning you can see probably messing up everything I'm saying. This is people typing it in at the front of the stage. We also get captions added onto videos when they go onto YouTube, which is a different route through. So we make sure that everything going onto the YouTube channel has the signers on there and captions. We also provide a quiet room, because if you're in a conference with 400 people, sometimes you just need to get away from the people. So there is a room where you can go and just chill out for a bit if you need to do that. That's very valuable for neurodiverse attendees. Unfortunately, things do go wrong. So when things go wrong, apologise. If it went wrong publicly, apologise publicly. Make things right as soon as you can and stop the problem propagating. And of course, make sure you do better in future, learn from it. Here's a whole list of things that went wrong. I'm happy to talk about them afterwards, but I am running long, so I'm just going to skip over that and I will move on to the committee itself. So this is the 2018 event, the organisers and the volunteers. We've got a really good gender diverse mix. We've got some neurodiversity among the team. We are very, very white. This is what you call diversity level 1. This is not great. We're aware it's not great. We're also all fully able-bodied, so there's a concern that we might miss something just because it's not the sort of thing that we live on a day-to-day basis. So that is something we're working on. And that's kind of what we try to go about doing to make sure that the event isn't just, it's trying to make sure it's both diverse and inclusive. So diversity is having the group and a range of different people, whereas inclusive means that all of those people feel welcome and can fully participate. So that's the DevOps Days London conference specifically I've been talking about, but it should apply to everything. I'm also on the organising committee, along with Carol and Anna, of Tech Nottingham and Women in Tech Nottingham local meetups. Whereas at a conference, you get to do it once a year, and you get a year to try and remember what mistakes you made and fix them and make it more inclusive. Meetups happen every month, which means you have to react faster. You have to make sure that you're working on this all of the time. And I'm really proud to be a part of the committee for these events. I think that we're trying really hard to be as inclusive as we can. Please let us know if you think there's anything else we can be doing. It also gives us a chance to try things out because it's every month, so we can try things and see how they work, which is a lot harder when it's a conference and people are paying £100 for a ticket at the lowest. That's pretty much all I have to say about organising an event. I would just add that although these are one-off events, it seems obvious what you can do to make an event inclusive, but a lot of these things can also apply to the working environment and to what we do day to day. Simple things like telling people your pronouns, even if your pronouns are he or she, making it a normal thing that is just a thing that you maybe put on the front page of your slides. I've got a sticker from the conference that I put on my laptop just to try to normalize that as being a thing that people can talk about. Okay, thank you.
Yay!
Well, thank you very much, Louise. Has anybody got any questions for Louise? YouTube as well. Cool. Well, I don't know about you guys, but largely the big slide talking about food has made me fairly hungry. So I think probably at this point's a good opportunity for us to take our quick break to restock on tea, gin, rum, chocolate, etc. So let's do that, and then we'll reconvene in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unless people want longer or shorter. 10 minutes.
Yep. And then we'll reconvene with Anna.
Yes, we shall. Excellent.
In the interim, though, just a couple of quick reminders. We have the JetBrains license to give away. So all you need to do is tweet with hashtag DevOpsNots. And again, after everybody's finished speaking this evening, we'll be opening the doors on the beverage as code, which is our little bar afterwards. So feel free to stick around. Of course, if you don't want to wander off now for food and beverages, I mean, I've seen Andrew is on the Zoom meeting, and I haven't actually seen him take a drink today. This is game night. Yeah, feel free to obviously stick around and network right now as well.
Tea is necessary at this point.
Tea is necessary. I'm gonna open my. I'm gonna do my rum later.
Yeah, me too.
You've done your
Probably for
talk.
the best.
You're fine.
I can have gin.
That's how it
Excellent.
works, right?
Right. Okay. Cool. I'll see you in a minute.
How's this evening going for everybody who is still around?
My dogs have just been really noisy, and I'm just hoping that by the time I actually have to talk for 5, 10, 15 minutes that they're quiet, because I'm all right at the moment. I'm able to stay on mute, but it's not going to be fun unless I'm really hoping they've worn themselves out and gone to sleep soon.
It's fine. I think we're all used to animals on Zoom calls at this stage.
Yeah, they're pretty heavy breathers. It's not pleasant.
I find I've got hard floors everywhere in my house, and my dog will just decide that is the time. As soon as I open up a Teams call or a Zoom call or anything like that, is the time to start running around the house.
Yeah, they just have great timing. Animals and small children. There's no small children around tonight, but there are a number of dogs that may make an inopportune appearance.
It's not an opportunity. It's just a bonus for everybody else.
Well, they are friendly. They have been known to bark at other dogs on other Zoom calls and actually to have bark offs over Zoom. So
It's amazing.
gets a little bit chaotic then.
I think the worst one for me out of the small collection of animals I have here is the cat will come wandering in, and he's quite leery and loud, and he'll be fine if anybody else is speaking, silence. The second I unmute and start speaking, that's it. He's off. They're all sort of shut out of my office this evening, so I can do this.
Yeah, I've left the door open so they can disappear, but they're choosing to sit with me. If I shut them out, you can guarantee they'll scrabble and bark to come in. So I kind of figured if I leave the door open, they have the option to leave. But no, they're just going to be here and breathe heavily or slobber on the screen or something, I'm sure.
Hi, Philippa. How you doing? I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Brilliant. Been watching on YouTube for a while. I thought I'd join you.
Well, you're always welcome. So, I was just going to say that. So I've just been making sure all the slides are all up to date as well for later. For everybody who's sort of still around or watching at the moment, sort of a quick teaser for what we've got coming up next month as well. Is we have Sarah Lean from Microsoft, who's a cloud advocate for Microsoft, coming along to talk about hybrid Azure management and some tech that I'm really excited about called Azure Arc. And we also have Manuel Paes, who is a co-author of the book Team Topologies as well, coming along to talk about remote first team interactions for business and technology teams, which will be interesting because the book is fantastic. So, have you got enough gin, Misha? Oh, he's still sorting heads out.
I have tea now, so I'm happy.
Good. I've broken my kettle, so I can't have that at the moment. Or rather, my kettle broke on its own. And I had
Really? What did you do?
nothing. I went to turn it on this morning. Something crunched, and now it doesn't flip on anymore.
That doesn't sound great. Get a new kettle.
I was going to say, that happened this morning and you haven't already got a new kettle? I couldn't cope.
I've not had
Yeah.
a kettle all day, though, have I?
Just put a pan on the hob. Some water in it.
I'm not.
If you really wanted the tea, then you would make, you would.
Not a coffee machine.
There are ways to mean.
So
There you go.
that was fine.
Have you got any suggestions, Carol, on different capoeira songs that might be better?
I don't know. It's a very specific genre, so if you're not previously invested, it can be a bit of a tough sell.
It's okay. It's all good. We've got a captive audience.
It feels like a thing that's just playlists of on Spotify.
Well, that's what I've got.
Oh, yeah.
Right, I'm going to go with this one. Seguro Coca. Oh, helps if I actually. Learning about new cultures.
ritmo originário de Pernambuco, com influência africana e indígena. É uma dança de roda, acompanhada de instrumentos percussivos e cantoria, e executada em bares, fileira ou círculos, durante festas populares do litoral e do sertão nordestino. Recebe várias nomenclaturas diferentes, como coco de roda, coco de embolada e coco de umbigada. O coco de roda.
He's explaining a different type of samba from the northeast of Brazil.
I was going to ask, do you speak Portuguese?
Yes.
I thought so. I didn't want to assume.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, no,
Tudo
I
bom?
lived in Brazil until I was 19. So,
Sorry, not until you were 19.
no, I lived there until I was 19.
That makes more sense. Very cool. I only know Tudo bom. That's it. Excelente. Yeah. Spanish girl that I was friends with at school had an Angolan boyfriend that taught me a little bit.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool. I love it. Such an interesting language, Portuguese. I feel so close to being able to understand it with the Spanish.
It's a difficult language because it's got a lot more complex sounds and it's got a lot of accents.
Yes.
So Spanish is plain. It's got a very linear number of sounds.
Yeah, that I have found.
You can infer how they're pronounced, whereas Portuguese you can't. So it's a bit trickier.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I'd love to hear you speak Portuguese at some point. I mean, I'm not going to, put you on the spot now, but,
Okay. So that is 22. Has that been 10 minutes already?
I think so.
Yeah. So in this sort of second half, I'm going to hand over to Misha to do the remaining announcing, organising.
Indeed, thanking you. Thank you very much. Right, okay. So I have thankfully done my talk. I've now got my gin. We've had Bal and Louise. So next up in the lineup is the fabulous Anna Dodson. Let's have a round of applause. Yay. Right, Anna, take it away.
Hello, how are you all? So I hope you can all see my screen okay. Yay, cool. Okay, thank you. Hello. What can I do? This talk is inspired by myself having a little bit of a talk with myself at the start of the Black Lives Matter movement. What do you do when every fibre of your being just wants to help and make things better, but you're white and feel like that your very being, your very existence is the opposite of the solution to this problem? And that's pretty tough. But after speaking to some people who talked me down from quitting my job to let people in, I written this talk and decided to share what I think I've learned over being a woman developer and also being one of the organisers for Tech Nottingham and Women in Tech, which we do constantly strive to be more inclusive, as Louise mentioned earlier. And what makes me qualified to give this talk, I think, is that I give a shit. And I think if you give a shit about something, you should definitely go and talk about it. So please go do that. So let me crack on. First, we need to acknowledge that there's a problem. And I hope this isn't a hard acknowledgement for most of us because you're all here. But I think you'll find if you look around most tech events, most workplaces, you can see in front of you that there is a problem. So we need to acknowledge that the way things are currently working just do not work. And I know firsthand that there is a particular group of people who get a lot of blame for this. And that's not always necessarily fair to that group of people. But from now on, I'm going to start saying that the people to blame are the not diversity educated people. These are the people that sometimes look like they should care, but don't. And they sometimes look like you expect them not to care, but sometimes those people do really care. And sometimes people will say, oh, I really care about improving diversity and inclusion in tech, but they don't actually care enough to do anything about it. So, for example, women do 75% of the world's unpaid care work, and this obviously affects lots of things, but it really affects their travel. They travel quite differently. Those 75% of women will statistically and on average travel very differently to how men travel. For example, a man might drive to work and drive home again, whereas a woman may drop off her children, take her mum to the doctor, do the shopping on the way home. So it's very different. But this data isn't being collected because it's too hard. But guess who that really hurts the most? Because it hurts everyone. It hurts the economy, it hurts households, it hurts families. But really, who it really hurts is that 75% of women. They're the ones that have to bear the brunt of it. So just because something's difficult to do, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. We just have to try harder. So I hope we all agree there's a problem. There is definitely a problem. This bit's a bit tougher. We now have to accept that some of it is our fault. And that's really hard. I have to accept that there's things I've done in my past and will probably do again in my future that will contribute towards a non-inclusive environment. There are things that I could do better. And that is really hard, but it's really important that we do accept it because then we can start to change and we can improve and we can get better. And that's what we really, really need to do. So let's take a little look at hiring. Misha made some fantastic points earlier about hiring. So when we're hiring, we obviously want the best person at the job. And when I'm running a Women in Tech event, I often get asked about this the most from the male attendees. They tell me they want to hire more women, but they just don't know how, and they just want the best people for the job. Let's have a look at other industries, how they do it. The New York Philharmonic Orchestra has an average of 0 women from the start of the 20th century. There were a few exceptions. Some odd woman would make through, but generally it was 0. Obviously, it's because women aren't good musicians. That is why that was attributed. Because the people doing the auditions insisted that if the women were good enough, they would get hired, obviously. And that it was on women to do better, be better musicians. But luckily for us, they decided to do something about it. They looked around and thought, is it really the case that women aren't as good? Is it? I wasn't convinced if I heard that. But they decided to do something about it because out of the goodness of their heart, they were forced to by the law. So they introduced some blind auditions. That is literally, they put a screen between the auditioner and the people that were listening. And guess what? We now have up to 50% women musicians at the Philharmonic Orchestra. Who'd guessed it? So I'm not necessarily saying that we should hold blind tech interviews. I don't think that would be very nice for the interviewee. I don't think that would be a very good experience. But this is my slides breaking right there. You can see that fragment. Awesome. First of all, when you're looking for tech interviews, as Misha said, you can check your language. That's really important. There's some software online you can use, and it will tell you what words are typically associated with masculine and with feminine. I'd definitely take that software with a pinch of salt, but it's a good place to start the conversation and to have a think about your language. And what about a CV? I'm not convinced that CVs are the best way. And just because we've always done CVs definitely doesn't mean we should continue to do them. Is doing a CV going to answer the questions that the hiring manager wants answering? If so, is that because they're from the same background, so they're thinking along the same lines? There are different ways to get the information you want to know. Personal projects. This is a hot topic in tech. You're often encouraged to have a portfolio site and personal projects. And they are a fantastic way to learn. But remember, 75% of all unpaid care work is done by women. So when are they going to have the time? So if you're insisting that people have personal projects and hobbies, you're instantly cutting out people who have a second job, have people they need to look after, and have things that they need to get done. So just stop asking for personal projects, because that's just elitist, to be fair. And I'd also like to make the point, I'm not going to go up to a doctor and ask them what they've been prescribing in the spare time. And we should always be questioning our unconscious bias every step of the way. Not just yours, but anyone else who's involved in the hiring. If you don't like someone, why? What is it about them you don't like? And if you do like someone, can you describe exactly? And if you only like them for one or two things, what happens if you take those things out of the equation? Make sure you clearly display the salary when you're hiring. Don't contribute to the gender pay gap. That's the opposite of what we're trying to achieve here. So definitely put a reasonable salary. The technical test, the dreaded technical test. Do you need it? Really? Now, of course, you're all going to tell me, sure. Well, actually, I know that some people will tell me that no, you definitely don't. And some people will tell me you really, really do. If you insist on having a technical test, if it's just too radical to get rid of it, fair enough. But consider giving the applicant the choice of how they want to do that. I would like a technical test that I can take home and do by myself and present later. Some people prefer whiteboard exercises. Some people are happy to pair program. So if you give people a choice, you're instantly giving a more diverse pool of people because they want to solve a problem in a different way and they're comfortable in different scenarios. You could also consider a quota. I think quotas get a bit of a bad rep, to be fair. Surely you're just discriminating. You wouldn't put on an advert that you can't have applications from Black women. So why is that okay to do for white men? Surely the best person for the job should get the job, regardless of their gender, race, and age. Of course, but that clearly isn't happening, is it? We've all agreed there's a problem. So it isn't happening, and quotas can help readdress this balance. There was a recruitment software called Guild, and they were finding the best candidates, the best programmers, and they were using AI to do this. And they found that a lot of the best programmers who already exist in industry were huge fans of manga. One particular site, one forum, seemed to attract a lot of what they deemed were top programmers. That forum doesn't really attract that many women. So straight away, women weren't being ranked as suitable because they didn't want to spend their spare time on a manga porn site. And that's even before a human has seen the CV. Those women have been deemed unsuitable for the role. So having a quota can help readdress that balance and readdress the unconscious bias. So for example, you could get 10 people in, 5 men and 5 women. And then I'd also recommend you have a look at the local situation around you and see what the diversity is like in where you live and where you're looking for applicants. So in Nottingham, there is about 9% Indian, Pakistani and Bangladeshi heritage, and there's about 7% African, Caribbean, Black people. So I would expect there to be a similar ratio in your applicants. Now, that can be really hard to get that data, but there are ways you can do that in a sensitive and safe way. So again, just because it's hard doesn't mean you can't do it. I do often get said that they want to try and employ more women, but they can't find them. So have they thought about why? Maybe it's not them, maybe it's you. Are you offering part-time and flexible working? I don't know if I've mentioned this, but women do 75% of the unpaid childcare. So if a woman is in a job already, she's in a better position to negotiate for the hours and working patterns that she has. And going to a new job, that's going to be hard to do. But if you and your company offer that straight away, then it's not on the woman to fight for, or whoever is caring for the children who needs those things. So straight away, if you allow it in your company, let new people have it as well. They shouldn't have to fight for it. I think that all childcare should be covered under expenses. I think if your company expects you to attend meetings, out of hours or events, and they're going to pay for the meal, they should be paying for your childcare. Because if they're not, who do they expect at home looking after the kids? So I think it should be offered. And if they're not prepared to offer childcare, then stop hosting events outside of working hours. Good maternity and paternity cover, be open and be honest about it. I'd love to see more of this. You can make sure you're ensuring personal safety. Women get attacked a lot more than men. So what are we doing as companies to help with that? Are we helping them get taxis on the way home? Are we giving them a well-lit collection point for family members to collect them that's well lit and at an appointed time? Things like this should all be considered, really. I don't think it's fair to expect the women to always pick this up and always have to worry about themselves. We should be supporting people with disabilities. And I don't just mean with wheelchair access, even though that is a really good place to start. One of my friends, when she started a new job, she was given a form and she filled it out saying that she wanted some software to help with the dyslexia. And it was ordered along with her mouse, and it enabled her to start work effectively from day one. I thought that was really good. And she didn't have to fight for it or justify it. The drinking culture, I think, and I hope that we know that we shouldn't be focusing all our social events around drinking. Some of them can be drinking if you feel like you must, but definitely offer a variation. Help people if they have a religious ceremony they want to attend and need to attend, and celebrate different cultures. And my all-time personal favourite is mandatory unconscious bias training. I hope that all managers have had unconscious bias training. I'm not entirely convinced they have. I'm speaking on personal experience here. If you haven't had unconscious bias training in your workplace, I would absolutely love it if tomorrow morning you rock up and you demand it. I think it's really, really important, and I think it should be offered to everyone. More than offered, I think everyone should be doing it. So that's a small change that you can make at your company really fast and really quick. So we've talked a little bit about diversity and how we can help in the workplace, but what does diversity actually look like? It might not actually look like anything. Some diversity you can see and some you can't. Diversity data isn't mandatory. And a lot of people with disabilities won't declare it because they're scared of discrimination. We should really try and get away from that, really. That's not fair. And there's quite a few other people that I've not even mentioned on this. Ageism is a huge one. People are discriminated against when they're too young, discriminated against when they're too old. It's not great. But looking at where the lines are, who do you think is in the best place to help? If one of these groups of people suddenly woke up tomorrow and was like, do you know what? I really want to change that. Which group of people do you think have got the best chance of doing that? If you related to any of the groups of people on the left-hand side, you can help the people on the right, and you've got a better chance of helping them. It isn't up to the people on the right to do it all by themselves. That does mean you have to care, which I guess you all do because you're all here. You've got to listen, which I hope you are doing right now. You've got to learn, and you've got to adapt. and change your behaviour, which is tough, but we can do it. I believe in you. Okay, let's play a little game. This is DevOps Nuts, yeah? So there's an instant response retro. The presenter makes a joke. I personally did not care for that joke, thought it was inappropriate and offensive. I'm not happy about it at all. But what do you think makes the most difference so that it doesn't happen again? What if everybody in that room, or the majority of that room, agreed and said, this is not okay, and fed that back to make sure it didn't happen again? Or what if just me, who nobody likes anyway, because we all know that women can't do maths and women aren't good developers, decides to get on my high horse again and send another email complaining about a perfectly good manager? What do you think is going to make the most impact? And of course, I'm sure that all of our companies have clear, concise, well advertised and established reporting structures in place so that it is easy to flag these kind of issues up and can be dealt with in a really good and clear way. But if somebody did stand up and say, hey, that joke's not uncomfortable for Anna, I'd find that pretty weird, to be honest. I wouldn't like that. I was once in a meeting with a room full of, well, loads of other men. I was the only woman. There was only one other person in the room who wasn't white. Two people were presenting, and they were presenting a talk, a conference that they've been to. They got to like the fifth or sixth person, and a woman came on. The first woman speaker of the conference came on. So they paused their presentation to have a good old laugh at what she was wearing. Why do that? I didn't like it. I didn't appreciate it. I didn't have the confidence to stand up and say anything though. I just sat there feeling really, really uncomfortable and hating it and hating them all. And you can probably guess I don't work there anymore. But what if next time someone had stood up and said, this makes me feel uncomfortable? Laughing at someone because they're a minority or because they're different should make everybody feel uncomfortable. And I didn't have to be in that room for anyone to say that. It should have made them uncomfortable whether I was there or not. So you can start now. If your room doesn't contain any women, if your room that you're in is only white men with no visible diversity, you can still be uncomfortable if something is said wrong. There's quite a lot of research into women getting interrupted. This one's my favourite because they went through about 15 years of court records. And in a court, they have to record everything. 15 years and found out that, yes, women do get interrupted more. And men are the ones who are interrupting. A hostile work environment is not a good place to be, and it affects everyone. But hostile behaviours are noticed against minorities, especially, and is amplified even more for Black and ethnic minority women. A confident, privileged person will speak over someone they see as weaker and less important than themselves. Because that's what they're doing. When you're interrupting someone constantly, you're saying, I don't care what you're saying. I'm not interested. I'm not even going to bother to listen. But we can change that. We can't solve climate change tomorrow. We can't save racism tomorrow. But what we can do is sort out some meetings. I'm 100% not interested in going into a meeting where two people are just shouting at each other and whoever's the loudest and doesn't give up wins. I don't want to be in that meeting. I'm pretty sure nobody does. I hope even the people shouting don't want to be there. But we can change that. It's actually a small, easy thing we can change. So first of all, my clicker stopped working. Stop people interrupting straight away. Time box speakers so everybody gets a say. And move to unanimous decision making. So everyone's vote counts, everyone's voice counts. And listen to everyone. This next one's really important. Listen to everyone. Because I really feel that we should listen to everyone. I was once at a presentation and the person in front of me got their laptop out just as the only women developer of the team that was presenting was about to present her segment. And they got their laptop out and they checked all their emails through this woman's segment, through her presentation. And when she was wrapping up, he closed his laptop. He'd done. Obviously, whatever she was saying wasn't important. I don't know, maybe he was psychic and knew what she was going to say. He knew that he didn't care. But when it came to promotion time, she was told that she wasn't doing enough to contribute to the outer side of the business, outside of the team. I think she was contributing. I just think people weren't listening. But whilst we're listening, definitely listen for language as well. This study was done on the military, and it was taken on reviews on feedback. So straight away you can see that women got far more negative comments than men did. Who knew? Spoilers, I did. Also, women's contributions aren't seen to connect to business outcomes. And the women's caregiving stereotype calls reviewers to more frequently attribute women's accomplishments to teamwork. It's not great. It doesn't feel good. Women described as temperamental, panicky, excitable. If you're using that kind of language, if you notice that language come up, step away. She's too emotional. She needs to take a step back. She's too bossy. She's so abrasive. She's completely irrational. She needs to watch her tone. She's angry. Black women are called angry 2/3 more than white women. Some of the studies that prove this language aren't done on enough of a sample size to submit it to the top level journals because women's issues aren't important enough to get funding. I'd just like to remind you that women is 50% of the population, but women's issues aren't important. What's happening with this language is someone isn't following the mental model you have of them. You know, when you're reading words and like half the letters are missing, but you can still read it. Your brain's really good at creating these shortcuts and patterns, but sometimes the brain does it wrong. Sometimes the brain is thinking, why is a woman in charge? That's not right. So you need to think, wait, why did I think that? Why is my brain telling me that's not right? Why have I reacted negatively to that? It's because it's trying to reject this norm that you're seeing, this break against what you're expecting. But if you know that you can look out for that, you know it's happening, you can change it, you can update your mental model, and you can go forward and not think that the next time. Something that is really easy to forget is that it's really hard to change your behavior and change how you see the world. It's a cliche, it is totally a journey. But definitely keep going. Even if you get it wrong and it's hard, keep going, keep trying. We'll be there, we'll be okay. And I'm gonna leave you with one last nugget of joy. If women were able to enter the workforce and women's contribution to care work was appreciated, the GDP would raise by $28 trillion. So let that sink in. This talk was based on a couple of books, opinions of my own, anecdotes from my friends, and things like that. I would definitely recommend some of these books and videos and stuff, and I have a load of references as well. I will post these talks up online. But thank you so much for listening. I hope it helped.
Massive round of applause for Anna. That was amazing. That was so insightful, Anna. That amazing. I'm going to take so many things from that. Fair play. That was incredible. Have we got any questions for Anna at all? I'll just check YouTube.
Internally raging.
I was going to say, like, I have a friendly question just from my own notes, is like, how do you control the rage?
I think
It
it's
sounds
what you
like it sounds frivolous, but it's legitimately an issue sometimes.
I think me and you, Carol, know we spend a lot of time organising events, and like speaking here, it really does help. Like, thank you so much, to Misha, especially for organising this, and to Liam as well. It really does help. And often the people that I really wish come to these events, they won't come. But maybe someone who is here tonight can help that person get a little bit further in their journey. So I'm going to channel the rage. Thank you very much.
It's on YouTube. We can send it to as many people as you like. Okay, good. I don't want to talk over anyone. Sorry. Right. So, okie dokie. Right. So, I don't think there are any questions on YouTube. But to be fair, we'll have a bit of a Q&A and discussion at the end if everybody's up for it anyway. So yeah, if there's any questions that you think of during any of the talks, then just note them down, and yeah, we can always grab them at the end. So next up, we have the illustrious Hannah Mulligan. Hannah will be taking it away. Do you need a few minutes to set up with your screen share, or are you all good?
Yep, let me just share my screen. Hopefully you should be able to see this.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So yeah, my talk is titled "Why Wouldn't I?" And I agreed to do this talk ages ago, and I honestly have no idea why, because I had no idea what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to say. Obviously, it's about diversity in tech. I'm a woman in tech. That's where I'm diverse in this instance. But I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. But a few weeks ago, whilst I was at work, something happened, and it was a really, really small incident that the other person involved in probably doesn't even know that it threw me as much as it did. But I often think the smaller instances are the ones that can sometimes hit you the hardest. So I'll tell you the quick story. And we have a project at the moment, and a few weeks ago we were just getting started with it. It's a big, big project. It's a big epic. It's over 100 story points. And I was asked to put a project plan together to go, right, okay, how are we going to work it? You know, how's it going to look? When are we going to release it? Etc., etc. So I spent a good few hours putting this plan together, making sure it was right, talking to my team, getting everything perfect. Got it all sorted. I then shared it with my colleague, who is more senior than I am, and is the main customer contact, because we were presenting this back to the customer. And the customer is our biggest customer, so it was important we got this right. I also feel that it's probably necessary to mention that my colleague is male. So I presented this plan to him, we got it all sorted, we were both happy with it. We then got on a meeting with the customer, and my colleague did the introduction bit and then said, right, okay, we'll present this plan to you. And then there was silence for a few seconds. And it was only at that point in time that I realised that I was expected to present this plan. So I sort of panicked a little bit almost. I wasn't expecting it. And I ended up presenting it, and it was all fine. It went really well. Customer was happy. And after we'd got off the meeting, my colleague rang me just to give me a couple of tips and to talk about things. And I said, oh, you know, next time, can you just give me a heads up if you're expecting me to present? Because I wasn't expecting it. And he just sort of looked at me and was like, but it was your plan. Why wouldn't you present this plan? And I just sort of sat back for a minute. And I was like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I present this plan that I had spent hours making? I knew inside out, I had all the details, I could answer all the questions. Why wouldn't I? And I got off the call, and I sort of just sat for a few minutes, and I was thinking, yeah, because all of my past experiences, not just in my career, but through uni, through school, through life, I've more often than not had those opportunities taken away from me. other people have done them, I've just gone, okay, no, you're probably not the best person to do this. I'll do it. And more often than not, the people taking these opportunities away from me were men. They didn't trust that I could do the job. They may have thought that I wouldn't be capable of doing it, or that I would make mistakes, or I would go wrong, or that I would say something that I shouldn't. And when I started thinking about it, it made me think about, well, what else am I potentially missing out on, or what else am I doing that I shouldn't? Because of all these past experiences where, more often than not, it's likely because of a sexist issue, because there aren't enough women in tech, and there isn't enough diversity in the tech industry. So all of these opportunities have often been taken away because I haven't been trusted to do them. One of the things that I thought about, which actually links up to what Anna just mentioned, was that if I'm in a meeting and there's various people in the meeting and somebody asks a question, even if I know the answer to the question, I won't answer first. I'll sit back and let other people potentially answer, because I'm so used in the past answering and then being interrupted, being talked over. And in some cases, I'll answer, and the person who asked the question will ask a male colleague of mine to confirm whether I was correct or not. I've had that multiple times, and you just think, why isn't my voice as equal to the other people in the room? And there was various things I could think of that that I do or don't do because of all the experiences in the past. And it's bizarre because it's now at a subconscious level for myself. I'm almost unconsciously biasing on myself, which is just insane. I shouldn't be in a position where that's a thing. And I would really recommend that people do this themselves as well. Just have a stop and think. I've got to change my slide there. Stop and think sometimes about yourself and what you might be putting on other people as well. Do you interrupt people? Do you interrupt women? Is your language wrong? Going off what everybody else has said tonight. Think about what you might be doing unconsciously, because you can be putting that on the people themselves as well, and it makes them less confident. It makes them think that they are less important, so they hold back. And that then got on to me thinking, right, well, I'm a team lead now. I'm working towards becoming a development manager. What can I do to help others? How can I, as a lead, as a manager, create an environment where people don't feel like they can't or they have to accept what they shouldn't? How can I create that environment? And I clearly don't have all the answers. I don't know how to just fix everything. That's as we've said before, it's not just going to happen overnight. But the one thing that has been, a personal thing for me, you have to allow people to do their job. If you've got a developer who is clever and they know what they're doing, regardless of whether they're male, female, white, non-white, cis, nonce, anything, they're good at their job. They can answer the questions. They can do the presentations. Their voice is equally as important as anybody else. You have to let them do their job. If you're just controlling everything, taking that away from people, they're not going to be confident enough to come forwards. Moves on to my next point, is that you have to listen and trust your team as well and your colleagues. Because if your team don't feel like they can come to you and you will listen and trust them for a small thing, they're not going to feel that they can come to you and listen and trust you when it's a big thing. Like, for example, I think that comment was sexist, which I have had to do in the past. And I can thankfully say that the last time I did that, I was listened to and I was trusted. And that makes such a huge difference, such a huge difference, because I know now that if there is a problem in the future, I'm supported. And that's all people want who are, you know, when we've got this diverse team, when we've got this brilliant team of all different backgrounds and all this diversity, if we're not listening and trusting them when they say they're not being treated fairly, it's still not a good team, because they're going to leave. If they don't feel like they are trusted and they are listened to, you're going to lose that diversity, because no one wants to hang around for that. So that these two things are the huge things for me personally. I assume they are to other people as well, but from my personal experience, this is what has made me think I'm in a supportive environment, which is what people want. And to wrap it up, I guess my advice is to talk to people, not necessarily go and have a really deep, in-depth conversation with someone you barely know, but I'm sure you're friends with a lot of your colleagues, or friends with people who aren't your colleagues. Talk to them about their experiences. Talk to them about what bad experiences they've had, what good experiences they've had, and try and take on some of that information and be better from it, learn from it, and listen. That's the big thing. You've got to listen to people, because you can go and talk to somebody, but if you're not truly listening to them and taking it in and then thinking about it afterwards, what was the point in talking to them in the first place? Yeah, that's me, fairly short and sweet. Any questions?
That was excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just trying to find the stop share button.
I know, it's difficult, isn't it?
It really is. I've already used Zoom before.
Yeah, I've used it very badly for quite a while. Right, where are we? Let me check for questions. Sorry, I wasn't. Right, where are we? Don't be afraid to call out behaviour. The more people you call out, the more impact we'll have. Recognise the biases and call them out and recognise you for being biased. That was a very good one. That was not a question, though. Are there any questions for Hannah at all? Okie dokie. Right. I don't think that I've missed any, but if I have, then please tell me. That was really, really good. Thank you. Right, we're going to move swiftly on to Nina, who will be talking about about diversity. Right, Nina, where are you? There we are. Right, so okie dokie. There you go. You know how to do this. Take it away.
There we go. Unmuted, sharing the screen. And the play button that's normally there, it's gone into another way. Okay, so hopefully you can all hear me. Some of what Anna has said, there's a little bit of duplication in ours, but hopefully that will just serve to reinforce the message. So this is based on my actual experience of building a diverse team from scratch in Sheffield for Aviva Digital. So it's called Building Diverse Teams. It's also called the Invisible Walking Stick. And some of you will have met me at some tech events, and some tech events I'll have a walking stick and some tech events I won't. So it's not always visible. So why am I here? Why am I spending this evening on a tech event? I'm also on another tech event tomorrow night. I've also got Women in Tech on Thursday night. Why do I do this? Why do I give up so much of my own time? Because yes, I'm angry. I'm angry because of people like this, people who put these things on social media and I get into flame wars, you know, and yeah, what I tend to do is, you know, because I'll hang out on tech forums online and I'll see people posting stuff like this. So I just look them up, and if they're stupid enough to post where they work, then I send a little message to their place of work with a few screenshots of the sort of crap that they post online and say, I wonder if you've got a diversity problem in tech. This might be why. So this is why I do this, because at the minute it's still needed. And I live for a future where it is no longer needed, and that I can actually just spend all my evenings playing with my dogs, who have thankfully gone to sleep now. It's a good job about having a late slot because they were very noisy earlier. So I'm here because I built a tech unicorn. No, not the whole pre-IPO unicorn thing, actually the mythical beast that is a 50-50 team. They exist and they can be built, and I did one. And I didn't have a 50-50 tech team by recruiting 50 female Scrum Masters and 50 male Scrum Masters. I built it as a tech team overall with tech people, as well as support staff that are non-technical focused. So I'll go into that in a bit. So I manage APIs. So the other picture of a donut wasn't just because I like food, but when people ask me what do, I say, oh, I'm the donut. And they just kind of look at me and I said, yeah, that little thing that goes round and round and round when you're in your app and you can't see what's doing, stuff I do is always there. And then they look at me a bit more confused. So I say, okay, so front end team, they design a sink. They might make it glass and seafood to make it fancy. They might put some nice taps on it. And there might be some back end mainframe from the 1980s or even the 1970s. And that's like a water sewage treatment plant. And in between are all the APIs. In between is all the middleware. Everything that I manage is in the middle. Everything I manage is invisible until it goes wrong. And if your plumbing leaks, even if it isn't pooey plumbing, it's still a very bad thing to happen. So although you can't see anything that I do, and it isn't pretty or easy to see, it is very important, and you don't want to see it and you don't want to hear about it. You don't want to know it's there. It's exactly like plumbing. So that's a little bit about what I do: manage an API team, manage a middleware team. And that's important because when you look at the breakdown of women in tech, it varies a lot by how you specify women in tech. So if you actually pull out the technical roles in test and programming, you can be down to like single figure percentages in some cases. So I set myself some goals. These were not set for me or suggested. We're encouraged, we're given a couple of goals that are cascaded down, as is often the way in a big corporation. Then we're asked to set some goals for our own. So these were the ones that I set, and they were relating to the Scrum teams, as in the speed of how quickly I can rustle up a couple of Scrum teams, how quickly I can complete all my hires, and what they should be around. So quality was going to be important because one of the things I was accused of is, you know, oh, you might be able to get a load of, you know, women in, but, you know, need to be good. Can't just hire because they're women, you know, not just hiring to a quota. Yeah, so we've already touched on quotas in Anna's, so they can be helpful, but they can also inspire that. So I didn't set a quota for someone else, but what I set myself against was, again, something else that Anna touched on, which was what is the surrounding Sheffield area makeup for BAME and everything else. Now, Sheffield's quite a pretty cool interracial city. So that gave me some pretty good situations, you know, somewhere good to point at. So I wanted to measure this by gender, by people of colour, by sexuality. And actually I came across a few more as I went along. But these were my initial, what I actually cut and pasted out of my goals. And these were goals that I set myself. And that's really important because one of the questions that I get asked by people a lot is, it's often by someone's manager's manager or a recruitment person who works at the same company, or a recruiter who's external. Oh, well, you know, how can we do this? The first thing you need is a really engaged hiring manager who believes that diversity is important. And that was basically what I was. I wasn't going to hire a non-diverse team. That was never going to happen. The trick was hiring a good enough diverse team of a high enough quality, the right sort of people that would work together and mentor each other and bring each other on and work as a team and create a community. So yeah, setting your own goals and being motivated. So the green is the ones that I succeeded with, the reds failed. So yeah, I didn't get all my hires in early enough, and I didn't get my 4th Scrum team in before Q4. I met all of my measures in terms of BAME, sexuality, gender, everything else. And my stretch was to be better than the industry standard. I did better than the industry standard. I've got a page in a minute that tells you where Google are and all the others, yeah. I didn't have a low new hire failure rate, so I wanted no leavers before year end or to fail fast. You know, it's the whole agile thing, and fail fast. It's quite difficult to fail fast and give people a genuine chance to prove themselves, I found. What I didn't have was a set period of time. I didn't have a trial 6 months, you know, where, you know, you're on probation. It wasn't something that Aviva did, and it wasn't something that I wanted to bring in, because I feel then that people aren't part of the team from day one. They feel like they're proving themselves, and it creates unnecessary pressure, which I believe women in particular are more susceptible to and feel more self-conscious about. So I failed on my low new hire failure rate. Whether or not I'd specify that differently in the future, because I'm happy looking back on that and the stuff I learned from it. I'm happy that that was okay, actually, that I needed to give the people that didn't fit into the team enough time to prove that properly. And the one leaver that I had that was a voluntary leaver from my colleagues' Scrum team, that was a salary thing. And they just got offered a massive whacking great salary to go and work in Oxford to do the same kind of API Java work. And we were like, oh shit, yeah, it's more than I earned. Go on, good luck. Nice one. Can't do anything. You know, there are certain times when you say money doesn't matter, but then when they're waving that kind of money around, matters. So yeah, failed on that one. So not all signs. So this was where I was at my year end 2018. So I had received these sort of splits, and in terms of the local workforce and of year end 2018, I was doing still a bit better in terms of that than Google and Netflix and Amazon, because actual tech jobs, I had 30% of women, and by tech, I mean only coding and automation test engineers that will need to write code like pieces of segments. So none of my BAs are included, none of my Scrum Masters, nothing like that. So yeah, I did way better than that. Also, when people looked at API tech in particular, because it's such an invisible area of work in the digital age, that a survey suggested that the women in tech in APIs may be as low as 6.9%. So yeah, to get 30% there. So I carried on, and I just had a look around, and you know, these are some pictures from my A-level computer studies class. I was coding BBC Basic on a BBC computer. I was riding a moped. I liked rock music, and my friends like Red Dwarf, as you can see, and we were pretty nerdy. So, you know, I was basically just another nerd. I happened to be the only female nerd, but it was a nerdy thing to do. It is now not a nerdy thing to do. So these are some of my ladies that work for me, and these were some of the pledges. I asked them if I could use this photo. We already had permission because we had to put it out when we were doing our International Women's Day. So all of these ladies are technical coders in Sheffield for me, or they were until they shut our office last month. But that's a whole nother story. As you can see, they're quite a mix of ages as well as diversities and backgrounds. So you don't have to be a nerd anymore. And that's what's really cool, you know. So
You muted, Nina.
that's because I got an admit button for some reason, and I was trying not to press that because it popped up in the middle of my screen. I was overwhelmed by the power of being able to admit someone. Oh dear. So I, having lost my train of thought about running the world there. So these are some of my ladies. So these are now, this was the current picture of my team. Not quite at end of 2018, which was at the end of the first year, but at sort of around about mid 2019, when I'd finally finished the recruitment. I didn't finish the recruitment for end of 2018 like I'd wanted to. So my team have all seen this and seen how I've depicted them for simplification purposes, trying to make some of them look older, younger, blacker, whiter, whatever. We looked at lots of ways to do this, and I sort of got a little bit of feedback on this, and like, how do you want me to do you? Do you want me like men and women sign on like toilets? How shall I depict you on a thing? And this was their preferred, and some of them quite liked this. So you can see I've got a lot of ladies in there, and in the developers, a heck of a lot of ladies. Yeah, so doing really well. I've also got quite a bit of ethnic diversity, which I wanted. So the first year in 2018, I think I had 2 people in my team and another lady in my friend's team that I also was recruiting for that was in Sheffield. A couple of Hindus and a Muslim. By 2019, we had 3 ladies, 2 ladies of black origin and 1 gentleman. We had that year we didn't just do Diwali, we did Eid, we did Nigeria Day. We just had so many more parties and celebrations. We also celebrated Yorkshire Day because we were in Sheffield. If there was an excuse to have a celebration, we were going to have it. So, and that, you know, we all really learned a lot about each other's cultures. I mean, Diwali now seems sort of old hat and you know, almost common. But yeah, Nigeria Day, I'd never done Nigeria Day ever before. And we'd never done a massive thing for Eid. We'd always sort of had an email, oh, it's, you know, it's time of fasting, be respectful to your colleagues, don't go rustling crisps under the nose kind of thing. But yeah, to really celebrate Eid and become part of the end of that for them was a really nice thing to do. So that's been the last 2 years, and that got us involved with the Sheffield, I'm going to try and think of the name of it now. It's a speaker group that a lot of the Turkish immigrants there have become involved in, and we've done quite a lot of outreach work with them now, which is lovely. So the other thing, I hadn't put age as part of my diversity goals, but you can see my team was not as age diverse as you might think that I would quite like. This wasn't massively balanced. However, one of the objectives I was given verbally by the management, and the reason that they were building a digital team in Sheffield, was that the core of Aviva's workforce are in Norwich, and they've been there for 20 to 30 to 40 years. They're Norwich Union, they're on final salary pensions, and they are what is described as an ageing workforce. So the idea of me creating a new digital office in Sheffield was actually to create a workforce for the future. Hence, I do have a very young, large base of the pyramid for that reason. But without some of my more mature ladies that maybe retrained in later life and certainly brought some really valuable experience in other areas. I had one ex-climbing instructor. I had an ex-round the world yachter. Yeah, had some really amazing people who'd retrained into tech in later life, and that really helped with the diversity. And then you've got disabilities and LGBTQIA+. And this was something that was really important to me. This was something that I asked people to come and talk to me about, and ask them how they want me to represent that on here. How do they want me to represent that in the office? And are they out to everyone? Are they out to their parents? Are they out just in our office? You know, that I think a lot of people who are not LGBT aware are not aware that you come out once and it's done. Actually, that's like the furthest thing from the truth ever. I mean, it's not just coming out. There's coming out to your parents, then there's coming out to your first job, then there's coming out to your second job, then there's coming out to your third job, and then there's being out to your manager, who might want to know for diversity reasons, but not being out with your colleagues because one of them's quite fundamentally religious and you feel that might offend them. So even though you're quite happily out in the rest of your life, you're not comfortable there. So this can be something for me that I was happy that people were honest with, but I didn't represent as a graph and put through. I did have one lady who was quite happy to be out. She promoted my department, and she chaired the network for Sheffield for Pride. So we got a lot more feedback. And of course, with her in the meetings, there were, you know, spreading the word basically that it was an LGBT friendly place. And the disabilities, again, is something that people often are not visible, but they are kept hidden for embarrassment reasons. IBS is something that can be quite debilitating. It can also be something that affects you on meetings at work. You may be sat in a meeting, and the next meeting, it's already gone 2 minutes past. And so you're 2 minutes late for the next meeting. And, you know, if you go to the toilet, which you really, really need to, you're going to be in there for 10 to 15 minutes, not a quick 5-minute job here. How's that going to work, you know? But do you want to put that on your footer of your email? No. Do you want to tell your manager so that you can, you know, negotiate some leeway on these things? Yes, and you should be able to. I also had one lady who was absolutely brilliant at coding, and certainly no issues with that, but she was dyslexic and found reading very, very difficult and filling in forms very, very difficult. She didn't want any of her colleagues to know that either, you know, and that was important. So I treated them both in exactly the same way, that these are not something for me to out and for me to put people in boxes. And both of them are something that you need to consider discreetly and offer opportunities for the people to come to you. So, and hopefully I did that. And this is a little bit about how. Now, one of the things I wear, so where's the camera on this? So there we go. There's my watch with a rainbow wristband. So when people are seeing me in a, thanks dogs, you've been quiet for so long. When people are seeing me interview them, they might see the wristband of my watch. And I did used to wear an earring as well. So they're going to say, oh, okay, gay or an ally, or, you know, at least she's not going to spit on me. So there's a visible immediate thing. So the Johari window was something I learned about ages and ages ago on management courses. And it's all about making the window in the upper left bigger and bigger and bigger, so that what is known to yourself and to others more. So if I know I'm bi, nobody else knows I am until I say that. If I say I've got a degenerative bone disease or joint disease, nobody else knows that until I say it. So unless I make more of myself visible, people are not going to be comfortable. So the more that I can make myself known to myself and to others, and hence the invisible walking stick, and hence using the walking stick on days when I don't need it sometimes, because there are days when I need it and there are days when I don't need it. But sometimes it's useful just to be visible with it. It really, really is. And it is something, I mean, I know Louise was talking about events. It's my biggest bugbear at events, standing up and eating. Yeah, wheelchair participants, they've got a seat. But us people who've got a walking stick in one hand and a plate in the other, and how am I going to eat off my plate with my mouth? I'm sure Louise doesn't do that, but I absolutely hate standing and eating because I just, can't always do it. It's really frustrating. These small things, that the more diversity you have on your teams, these little things come out. So my principle of how I did this was by being as visible as I could be and asking for a lot of feedback, which is similar to what Anna said, ask. So how did I get all these people to apply in the first place so I could create the teams? Where did I look for them? Blah, blah, blah. So these were a few of the things that I did. I didn't take people that were all degree graduates. I did take two. I took two graduate placements, and they were 50-50, one male, one female. But I didn't insist that to come and work for me as a tech, you needed a degree. There are so many ways to train in tech now, and a degree is, as far as I'm concerned, an outdated mode. And you have to get into debt for it nowadays. I was very lucky that I didn't, and my dad was unemployed and I got a grant and a loan, and otherwise I wouldn't probably be where I am now, because you did need a degree. You don't now. Also, I retrained in older staff from the business. So I was doing pensions APIs. Pensions are really technical. There are so many complicated things about pensions, just so many ways that you can fund them and pay them and invest in them and things like that. So some of the staff in the company that had been with Aviva, well, I had the longest person I pulled across. They'd done 17 years already with Aviva in Sheffield, but hadn't ever done digital, didn't really know what digital was, but were looking for something new. I got chatting to their manager. They said, oh yeah, they're really good with IT. They're always doing these little things for me. They've done this little SharePoint thing that's really cool. Bringing them across, having those conversations with your colleagues and networking, again, they're business hotshots. Who are your company superstars? So if you've got a non-digital, non-tech part of your company, look there, because you can train tech skills. You can't train people skills as easy as you can train tech skills. You can't train complicated pensions knowledge as easy as you can train tech skills, in my opinion. And when you're saying, oh, flexible working, it's, flexible for everyone. It's not just flexible for women, it's flexible for everybody. So I had two gentlemen who came to work for me. One of them their wife had MS, and the other one, I'm not quite sure what she had, but he did need to do some additional care for her. And as such, the expectations placed on them at other companies had not been maintainable because it wasn't genuinely flexible. You also need a manager who supports it and supports you. So I was very lucky when we were setting this up. I had a guy called Pete Marsden. He didn't just pay lip service to this, basically. He wasn't fulfilling a set of company values. He genuinely believed that diverse teams were awesome and wanted to do it. Oh, I'm running out of time. Make sure the men you hire are the right men. This is really, really important. Exclusionary behavior and language, that's the first thing to make people feel uncomfortable. Like some of the other ladies said, there's so many examples that we can all give, and having been there. And also the adverts that you're putting out there. So why are people not applying? Well, if you're a woman in tech, there is a thing called Ada's List. And hopefully we all know who Ada Lovelace is. And just having your advert on there means it's only going out to women. So you're going to get women apply. And if it's going out to women and they know it's being sent by a woman, then there's a lot of incentive to apply. I also used a tool that was something that Aviva liked. It was called Textio. I think a lot of companies have something similar now that they can run it through and make it a little bit more friendly. I then also retweaked it because I still thought it sounded weird and I didn't want my adverts to be weird. So yeah, a little bit about this. Pete Marsden, my boss, he genuinely supported me. He genuinely believed in diversity. He wasn't doing this because there was a company tagline that said, we value our diverse and integrated staff. You know, he was doing it because he wanted a better tech team, because he'd seen bad tech teams and he'd seen good ones and he had a lot of experience. So he knew what he wanted. So particularly around diversity, make sure there's no lip service, make sure you're addressing behaviours that people feel excluded. So that is the really offhand comments, whether it's someone commenting on somebody's weight or, you know, whatever that can be. And feedback. I had the most interesting bit of feedback I had was from one of the Black lady and gentleman that worked for me, and I used to do a team building 2 hours every other week where we just downed tools and did fun stuff. And I was always quite careful not to be too ableist about what we did, so it wasn't massively physical. And I did a music game, and when I asked for feedback, which I always did, one of the things was like, yeah, that made us feel quite different because we didn't grow up listening to the same music you did. We, you know, apart from a few of the really big names that we were talking about, most of the groups that were being mentioned, so it wasn't accessible to all. And it wasn't something that I'd considered would affect someone from a minority background, because I'm not from a minority background. But in terms of what they grew up with, even though they were same age as the rest of us, growing up in Africa for at least the beginning of their life and then completing maybe in London, but still in a very much African community, the music available to them was very different. So I don't use that anymore. I don't use that as a team building tool. But again, feedback, trust. I did a lot of leadership coaching and set up a couple of courses while I was there because I wanted to bring on new leaders, next level down. So stepping the tech leads up, stepping the scrum masters up. Are they leading in the right way? Are they getting feedback on that? And down to the last bit, how is it being enforced? Networking, alcohol, again touched on by Anna. I don't drink, and 5 of my team out of the 40s didn't drink. So I made sure that we weren't basing everything around alcohol. I think that was important. And that's it. Sorry, that was longer than my 20 minutes, and I'm late for my own looking after my mother thing, which it's a bit embarrassing. So I've got to go and do that. So I would take a couple of questions really quickly and then I'm going to log off. Sorry.
Big round of applause for Nina. Thank you very much. That was very insightful. I've learned a lot, and it's really good to see somebody who's actually done the stuff that, you know, we've been talking about. So well done and fair play to you. That's really, really great to see. Are there any questions for Nina? Oh, I need, can you make it so that you stop sharing your screen, please? Because I can't see anyone. There we go. Let's see you all. Yay. Yeah, did anyone have their hand up? I don't think that there are any in the chat. And I just need to check on YouTube before we get going.
YouTube's looking pretty clear at the moment.
Yep. Okay. Right. Nice one. Well, yeah, I think it was just a very comprehensive talk. So excellent. Yeah.
Someone knows Pete Marsden, so they know how awesome he is.
Sounds great.
He genuinely believed, and that's what you need. You can't just do this on your own. So it's having the backing and doing everything that you can within that. So
be really interesting to know how you made, like, I mean, why he had that pre-existing inclination towards it, and like how he got that, and how other people might be able to make a case, you know, to their bosses to be able to do what you did.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that particularly for building the team onshore in Sheffield, a lot of that was because he'd had negative experiences with teams that are too heavily weighted offshore, not with using offshore resources, but being like 70 offshore, 30 on. So I know in particular that one of the reasons he expanded away from Norwich into Sheffield and that kind of thing. But yeah, he genuinely believed he wasn't, doing this for a quota. So
really, really good. Excellent talk. Thank you very much. Yeah, right. Okay. So we will move very nicely on to our headline act of Carol Gilbert. Where are you, Carol? Yay. Right. There we go. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Just give me a sec so I can put your lovely faces next to my screen. Sweet. So, I'm the last thing standing between you and relaxing, so I'm going to try to keep this short. My name is Carol. I'm a front-end software engineer. I work at Capital One, and I'm an organizer at Tech Nottingham. So we run Tech Nottingham Monthly and Women in Tech and a few different projects in Nottingham. I hope you're all familiar with this by now. Before I get started, there's a link to these slides. So if Zoom isn't really comfortable for you and you prefer to look on your own device, I will give you a few seconds to grab the link. Right, so the title of my talk is Women in Tech, What Do We Even Do? And I mean, it's a bit silly, but I realize that I know a lot of people in the Nottingham community, and I don't know that a lot of people actually know what I do. So I thought I'd center this more on my own experience, because I don't think I can really have a very narrow experience, so I don't think I can speak to diversity in general. So I thought this was probably a good thing for me to focus on. So I'm going to briefly go over how I got here. So I'm from Brazil, as I think a few of you know. And that is the age that I decided I wanted to work in tech. I was 6, that was my school computer. I got started playing games with my friends. One of my friends had a computer when I was 5, so I got started on that, playing stuff like Diablo 1, Tomb Raider, Prince of Persia, booting Windows 95 onto MS-DOS mode to put the cheat codes into Prince of Persia was my first elite hacking experience, and I was hooked. I did a lot of Microsoft Paint art, as many millennials will concur. I then pestered my parents for a really long time that I wanted to go on a computing course, and for a really long time they said we couldn't afford it, but I eventually wore them down. And they taught me how to write HTML on Notepad, not even ++, just Notepad, like a peasant, but I loved it, it was great. From that, I moved on to tinkering with blogs. So I downloaded a template that was already made. I'd basically add all those flashy trailing cursors and make it really nice and fancy. And then I'd write 0 blog posts, I would delete it, and then I'd start again. All of those things kind of let me into going to university. I did information systems for 2 years while I was still in Brazil, but I didn't really click with the course. I didn't really like it. So I dropped out, I moved to Spain, and I did a few different things. I wasn't sure if I would go back to tech, but I really did like it. So I eventually ended up going to university in Spain. I did a computer engineering degree. And when I finished, I moved to the UK. So all of my experiences in the UK work-wise. So I'm going to split this into 2 sections. One of them is what I do that is the same as most of you, I imagine. If you work as a software engineer, top of the list, we go to meetings, everyone's favorite, everybody loves it. I write some code. Sometimes I do it on my own, sometimes I do it with someone else. I review code. I do some infrastructure work to get that code in front of our users. I sometimes handle instant response because, shit happens. And I decided to focus on the front end. I think this kind of sums up really well, so I'm going to give you a minute to read it. I think Angie's absolutely right. And in the back end, you have a lot of control over what you do. But I think that's why I like the front end. I like the chaos. I like solving difficult problems. And I feel like there's a lot of those there that I can help with. So now let's explore what I do that is different. I'm going to focus just on these three for the sake of brevity. But one of the things that I do is I mind my tone. I do some glue work, which we'll go over in a second. And I do some emotional work. What I mean by minding my tone is every time I write an email, you have to do the exclamation mark review. So you finish writing it and then you go back to the top, you count all the exclamation marks, see if you sound like a psychopath, and then you delete some. Then I do the emoji check, have to add emojis to every single sentence so that people know that I am smiling and not a bitch. I also have to soften my points. This is my favorite. Basically, when having a technical discussion, I lay out a point. I go like, well, I think we should do this. We have these trade-offs, but I think this is the right solution. And then right at the end, my brain has a little conversation with itself where it goes like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And then it does it. And then I go, does that make sense? Or if that makes sense, and just like undermine my own point. I also use I feel a lot, which is fine. I love being in touch with my feelings, but used in a fact-based conversation, it could really undermine a lot of your own intentions into it and a lot of your own arguments. So the next part is the glue work, right? I'm gonna like really whiz through because I could go in depth in all of these, but we don't really have a lot of time. So if you want to chat about them later, I'm super happy to do so. I will natter for ages. Glue work is a term defined, as far as I know, by Tanya Riley. She is a principal engineer at Squarespace, and she considers glue work to be all of those bits of work that are not writing code specifically, but that hold the project together and make sure that you can deliver something usable. So I've put down some examples that I think can be glue work, like proactive communication. It's like going out of your way to speak to a different team to make sure that you're building the right thing and that you're doing things in the right way. Work organization tasks, so filing issues, making sure your backlog's healthy, all of those things that allow you to deliver quickly. External questions and requests. So when you work in like a medium to big company, you end up getting a lot of people coming to the team and asking questions. And if you respond and you take time and you do it nicely, people will come to you a lot to do that. So that can become a bit of glue work. Writing documentation can sometimes be it. And some aspects of knowledge sharing. Finally, we have emotional work. Emotional work can be something as simple as checking in with your teammates, making sure they're okay, talking through issues, conflict resolution. You know that someone's not doing very well, so you're going to check in with them, you're going to see what's up. Maybe you give them advice. Maybe you go speak to the other person that's involved to help unpick the situation. Or it can be something as simple as instigating fun. Because a team that works well together needs to have some fun together to create trust. And that does materialize into value. I really like Liz and Molly. You'll see the recommendation of the book at the end, but this is something that I really believe in. I think we can lie to ourselves and say that we don't bring our emotions to work, but I think that we all do. And if you're not actively working on it, it can become a problem. So at this point, you might be asking, like, but why? Because at the end of the day, what I do that's the same is kind of like, quote unquote, my core job. And what I do that's different is all of these other things that also take my time and take my energy, but they do deliver some value, right? They can be quite invisible, difficult to pinpoint. At the end of the day, we do it because we care. We care about our teammates, we care about the work that we do, and we want to make sure it's done right. We do it because it needs to be done. And I have this thing of like, if I know something needs to be done and nobody does it, I cannot not do it. I have tried many times and failed. I think I'm good at it. And I think part of it is I'm good at it. I do it because I'm good at it. So I know I can fill that gap, which is why I proactively do this work. But I also think I'm good at it because of the patriarchy, because it's raised me to be empathetic and to look after people and to be in tune with people's feelings. So it naturally puts me into that position. So before we move on, I'm going to caveat that I know men that do glue work and I know other people that do it. But the reason I highlighted it is because the majority of it is done by women. And I don't know if you noticed, but it is quite a task list to add on top of my core job things. So it will slow you down. And so we come to the point of what you can do. One of the things that you can do is work on your hiring process and everything that makes your company more diverse. Because having a wealth of representation will make sure that these things are properly split. The work is split in a more equitable way. And so everyone participates. Sponsorship, I crossed out mentorship, but just to sink in the point, I think mentorship is really important and I love it. And it's something that I actively do. But at times when we want to bring in more diverse people into our companies and into our industries, we tend to overuse mentorship and it can be a bit patronizing. You can assume that people don't have the skills, whereas sometimes what they need is sponsorship, is people to help them reach opportunities that they couldn't reach on their own, is to give them access, to give them advocacy for the skills that they already have. Learn to recognize patterns. One of the things that wears us down most is it's been approached in a lot of the talks already, is the daily interactions and the things that are not okay. I don't always call out these things. I call out a lot of them. You can ask my team, but I don't call out all of them because at the end of the day, you have to pick your battles, right? Because again, you want to be liked and you don't want to be a bitch. So you don't want to be argumentative or all of the words that were on Anna's list before. When you notice something, intervene and help put systems in place. I appreciate that not all of the glue work or the emotional work can be added to company processes, but some of it can. Some of the stuff that I listed, like writing documentation or knowledge sharing, can be treated the same as writing code. When that is done, that work is split better and people get credit for it. And last but not least, lend your privilege. I saw a talk recently by Antoine Simmons, which is also linked at the end, where he describes the act of lending privilege, and it could be really transformational if we all got into it. It is basically, he explained it using Star Trek, which I know a few of you will love. Back in the 60s, Leonard Nimoy and Nichelle Nichols, I believe is her name, they were on Star Trek together as Uhura and Spock, but she was very much underpaid. And what he did is negotiate with the producers of the show that they were paid the same. So he used this privilege as a white man to get a better outcome for her. And that in a nutshell is what lending a privilege is. But the beauty of it is that you don't have to be Leonard Nimoy. We all have privilege in different ways. And we could all use our privilege to help different people. I think, Hannah, you're going to love this one. I put this as an example of something that you can do. You can call this stuff out and it really, really helps. And this seems like a contrived example, but you've seen it from Hannah's talk that it happens. It's happened to me not too long ago, happens to friends pretty regularly. So helping break these things down and stopping them from happening will make a huge difference. Another one is, I really like this resource, which is highlighting some of the non-coding contributions that people make. Some of these will fall under glue work and maybe they're not a part of your leveling guidelines. So the people that do this work fail to get promoted because they're spending time on something that brings value to everyone, but is not adequately recognized. So taking the time to make sure that the people that are doing this work are getting feedback and are making that work visible and promotable will definitely help. And now I'm going to close with a bit of a selfish slide, which is what I will do. I will get comfortable and ambiguously positioning myself. This is the toughest one, but I'm working on it. I will cut back on quote unquote diversity work. And this seems bad on the face of it. But one of the things that I realize is that I spend a lot of time at work as well, doing diversity work in some form or another, where I realized that actually in my company, the position that I want which is senior individual contributor, out of maybe 400 engineers, there's 2. So I think I want to focus at the moment on becoming number 3. I want to focus on technical excellence and get to a position where I can find people that are in the same situation that I'm in now, and I can drop a ladder down. And this kind of falls into not becoming a manager. So many times I stop and think, well, maybe if I don't become an individual contributor and I become a manager, I can help with the hiring process. I can make a really inclusive team and I can work on it and make it really amazing. But then it would be me playing on the strengths that I was kind of forced to get instead of me getting better at what I want to do, which is why I actively want to work against it. And I want to work on my community. What I said before about diversity work is like, I don't think I have, like, I know I have a different perspective to everyone else, but I had a pretty, albeit a wonky line, but I had a straightish line into tech. I knew what I wanted to do from a young age. I have a computer science degree and it was pretty smooth going-ish. So I think there are other people that probably will bring more value to the diversity conversation. I think working on making our community as diverse and inclusive as possible will make a really big difference, because the people that come into, we talk a lot about hiring people from minorities, but what happens when they're hired? What happens when they come into the organizations and they're met with like daily microaggressions or basically daily very small gestures that they shouldn't be there? So that's what I want to focus my work on. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Yay. Oh God.
Before I let go, I've put some resources I'm going to share. I'm going to tweet the slides so people can click on through. I did like massively rush it, I'm sorry. But the first one I'd recommend is the talk Being Glue by Tanya Riley. That talk has done more for my career than any other resource that I've seen before. I saw it a year ago and I really realigned my career goals after that. So it's definitely worth a watch. Lending Privilege is very, very good. There's a lot of really actionable stuff in there and a lot of really good perspective on diversity in tech. And lastly, 2 books, No Hard Feelings and Feminist Fight Club. So No Hard Feelings is about emotions at work. And when I got it, I finished reading it. And the first thing I did when I got back to work was just pick up the book and just drop it at my manager's desk with a thud, saying, please read this. But I really recommend it for everyone. In Feminist Fight Club, I know Anna's already recommended it. We love it. It's a great book. It's fun. So both those books are fun and approach the topic in a really accessible way. And they both give you really practical things that you can do after reading them. So you don't have to just sit and stew on the rage. You can do something about it. And if you're a man, you can read Feminist Fight Club, because if you're really into, it will help you spot those patterns. If you read a profile in the book and you think, oh, I may have done this before, it will help you do better. So I cannot recommend these enough. That is actually it now. Thank you.
That's some really good food for thought, and thank you for all the recommendations for the books, like from all of the speakers, because I've got some reading to do. So yeah, that was amazing. Thank you all so much for coming, and all the speakers. Honestly, I've learned so much, and I think there was just so much more that like everybody I think could have probably said. It's such a vast topic, but yeah, so informative and just thought-provoking, and yeah. I thank you. It's been really, really great. Okay, so I will wrap up now. Liam, if you may do the honors with the slides.
I even have the tab ready and everything. This is the most prepared we've ever been for the prize draw in nearly a year of doing this event.
Very good. Oh, amazing. Right, okay. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to do these first, or do you want to do the draw?
Let's do the draw first.
Okay.
And then let's do the other bit.
Very good. Okay, right. So shall we have a drum roll? Liam, please pick out a tweet that will win a JetBrains license for a year.
And the winner of the JetBrains license is Zoe, who is on Twitter as @Letzuga007.
Good, well handled. Okay, right. Well, Zoe, yeah, that the JetBrains license will be winging its way to you. Yay! Oh, hello. Very good.
I exist. Hello. Thank you very much.
Excellent, and thank you. You recommended a book as well to me, I think.
I recommended two, and I got followed by the author, so I was very pleased. It's been a great day.
Yay!
Following me. Coders is really good, but Invisible Women, which was also recommended, I've only got through one chapter and I'm already like, oh, so much in there. So definitely read that.
Amazing. Yeah, we very much will do. Yeah. Oh, very good. Okie dokie.
So what we'll do with the license key, Zoe, is we'll DM you that on Twitter.
What he said. Yeah. Okay, right. So all that leaves is to let you know about next week's next month. It's not next week. It's fine.
Don't scare me like that.
It's been a long day. Yeah, next month's talk. We shall have a great person called Sarah Lean. She's a cloud advocate at Microsoft. She'll be talking about hybrid Azure management. Very good for the techie Azure people around. And then we've got Manuel Pais, co-author of Team Topologies. Very cool. Remote first team interactions for business and technology teams is the title of his talk. So yeah, please do come along. And also it'd be really great for us to catch up on any improvements, any thoughts, opinions, experiences that we've had like in the intervening months, just to kind of carry on the conversation around diversity in tech. So yeah, as I say, thank you to all the speakers, and thank you to everybody that's come along. We'll see you on the 28th of July.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Oh, thanks. It was really great.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're all great. Excellent. Thank